Hi, and welcome to Hardcover Feedback. I'm Brandy Smits.
And I'm Tracy Hill.
And today we have 3 books to talk about with you. The first one is a historical fiction talking about the life of a well-known literary figure. Secondly, we have an inspirational tale of a young boy searching for his own personal legend. And third, we have a humorous, award-winning young adult novel. So first we have Alice, I Have Been by Melanie Benjamin.
Alice Little Hargreaves' life has been a richly woven tapestry. As a young woman, wife, mother, and widow, she's experienced intense passion, great privilege, and greater tragedy. But as she nears her 81st birthday, she knows that to the world around her, she is and will always be only Alice. Her life was permanently dog-eared at one fateful moment in her 10th year. The golden summer day, she urged a grown-up friend to write down one of his fanciful stories.
What you do not understand, my dear Alice, is that people are not interested in Mr. Dodson and Alice Little. They're interested in Lewis Carroll and Alice in Wonderland, she continued, putting her rings on her plump fingers one by one. How can you be so sure? Because of the times we live in, dear, everyone longs for the simplicity of childhood, don't they? Well, I suppose so. So any association with Alice in Wonderland now will only be a happy one, don't you see? No, I'm not at all sure I see. Okay.
This is a novel based on biographical facts of Alice Little's life, different points in her life, starting with when she was a child and was very well acquainted with Charles Dodgson, who became to the world known as Lewis Carroll.
Right. It seems like it's almost too historical, like it's almost too nonfiction-like, that it's hard to tell what liberties she took when making this a fictional story. I think that's one of my biggest complaints, is that I can't tell what is actually real and what is not.
Yeah.
And we did a little research, and we looked up a little thing, like a little bit of information, trying to see which of this was actually accurate and which of the pieces of the story are fact or fiction. And it appears that almost everything is really, really real, except for a few relatively viewed opinions on relationships.
Well, yeah, the sad parts were all real.
Yeah.
I mean, and also her acquaintance with Carroll was real, and it is true that there was a rift between Alice's family and Charles Dodgson when she was 11. So that was established. Factually, that's true. But then the other facts that get handled in this book throughout Alice's life is all the sad parts.
Right.
Who she lost, all of this loss. And like you were saying, then what is fanciful and what's built up is the psychological supposition around it. How did Alice feel when these things happened? How did the people around her respond to her being Alice?
Which obviously, according to this book, she did not want to be Alice.
Yeah, and it's and yet she asked for it.
Yeah, she wanted it.
And yeah.
I don't know, but like you were saying before with the bad parts, that was the other problem with it, is they do focus on all the bad parts. Therefore, the storyline, the historical storyline of this story is not at all like fluid. It's very like jumpy. It's like, look, now she's 7, now she's 11, now she's 24. Yeah, it's like, well, okay, and so that's a decade of life.
Yeah, and then she's married and she's got grown kids. Like,
it's just,
what happened?
I feel like it was, oh, look, I found this and this and this and this in research, so I'll write about this and this and this and this and this, and that's it.
Yes.
And the rest of her life, no one knows. And it kind of, I don't know, it was not at all, and it wasn't what I wanted it to be. I wanted to love this book, because I love the story of Alice in Wonderland, and it just made me sad.
And it would have been
unhappy.
It was very unhappy, and it was it started out so promising and so hopeful, and then it's almost like Melanie Benjamin took what she knew of Alice's biography and then just made it as dismal as she possibly could. And because all of this supposition follows, oh, well, being Alice dogged Alice all of her life, and what really seemed like a great thing at first turned out to be this curse that stifled her emotionally throughout her life. And I don't know that that's true, and we couldn't really find much information about that.
No.
But why should we have to dig around for that just to enjoy this novel?
Why can't she just go, I was Alice, whatever, and just let it be? But it was so like...
Maybe she did.
And maybe, in real life, maybe, yeah, but the Alice in this story was very
affected.
negative all the time.
Very
And
affected.
I guess we should probably mention the negative aspect since we're talking about being Alice. This story kind of, there's a controversial debate as to whether or not Alice Little and Charles Dodson, aka Lewis Carroll, had some kind of inappropriate relationship. This book totally sides with that.
In a strange
In a very odd,
way.
yeah, not in a not
strange,
practical way.
unexpected, and it doesn't sound feasible given the age of the people involved and given the time period that it supposedly occurred in. It just doesn't sound. It sounds far-fetched.
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously a lot of rumors as to how, the real Alice was, and the rumor between, I like to believe that the rumor between Lewis Carroll and Alice is strictly created as a speculation towards putting a negative spin on her life. And I don't necessarily agree with that as being, real. I don't want to believe that that's real. It's a controversy, so it's not real. I don't know.
What I would have liked out of this book is either just to read a straight up biography that was maybe written well, like a good novel is written, which I think Melanie Benjamin might have been able to handle because it is a well written book, or something that's more fantasy and it's clearly earmarked as fantasy, like stories where we've read of one famous fictional character meets another famous fictional character. Something like that would have been a lot more fun and a lot more in keeping with the spirit of
Like
Alice
Abraham
in
Lincoln
Wonderland.
Vampire Hunter.
Exactly. Thank
Exactly.
you. Yes.
All right,
That's what we wanted.
Let's give our little ratings for this one.
Okay.
Why don't you go first?
All right. Well, since I was, if I could forget about the biography, I would have enjoyed it more as a novel, but that was hard, so I give it a 2.
All right, I gotta say I kind of agree with that. I think that it was too close to fact to pick out what was fiction, and it led me into places that I didn't want to believe were true, whether or not we don't really know. So I also am going to give it 2 stars.
Okay.
So 2 stars all around, and we'll be right back.
Welcome back to Hardcover Feedback, and our second book is The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho.
Santiago is a shepherd. Up until recently, that was all Santiago wanted to do. Everything changes when Santiago realizes his personal legend is to discover a treasure at the pyramids in Egypt. Along the way, he meets a gypsy woman, a man who calls himself king, and an alchemist, all of whom point Santiago in the direction of his quest. What starts out as a journey to find worldly goods turns into a discovery of the treasure found within.
Finally, a young woman approached who was not dressed in black. She had a vessel on her shoulder, and her head was covered by a veil, but her face was uncovered. The boy approached her to ask about the alchemist. At that moment, it seemed to him that time stood still and the soul of the world surged within him. When he looked into her dark eyes and saw that her lips were poised between a laugh and silence, he learned the most important part of the language that all the world spoke, the language that everyone on earth was capable of understanding in their heart. It was love, something older than humanity, more ancient than the desert, something that exerted the same force whenever two pairs of eyes met as had theirs here at the well. She smiled, and that was certainly an omen, the omen he had been awaiting without even knowing he was for all his life, the omen he had sought to find with his sheep and in his books, in the crystals and in the silence of the desert. So,
All right. First of all, I have to say this because as I was reading this book, the first thing that came to my mind was, okay, so I am reading a shepherd's version of The Old Man and the Sea. It is so, like, there are such clear parallels between The Alchemist and Hemingway's The Old Man and the Sea, including the fact that the main characters have the same name.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay. I mean, this is a story about a boy who gives up, well, I guess it's not exactly the same, but it's about a boy who gives up his career, I guess you can say. He gives up his life's goal to go and seek out something new because he has this personal legend that he's going to find treasure, and so he just gives everything up and goes off on his own. So I guess it's not exactly the same as The Old Man and the Sea, but there's definitely parallels.
there are parallels.
Definitely.
Yeah, as a novel, tried to enjoy it as a novel and then got the sneaking suspicion really early on that I was reading pop psychology thinly disguised as a novel, or rather pop philosophy, because it really just, in all the major concepts that it introduces, like the soul of the world, the personal legend, it's like, okay, this sounds like a parable, and it sounds like this is advice that we're getting in story format. All right, let's see where it goes. And when I got there, it wasn't exactly what I was expecting.
I just don't think that I am an inspirational book reader. I don't think that I get what I'm supposed to get out of inspirational books. I mostly go, okay, I get the story. The plot's good.
Yeah.
I like the plot. I like the characters. Can we please cut out all of this special person mumbo jumbo that's getting in the way of my story? And as you can see, The Alchemist is not even that long of a book. And so I don't know. It had its good parts. I did love when Santiago worked at the glassmaker shop. That was really insightful.
That was cool. Yeah.
I liked his not real alchemist, I want to be an alchemist friend.
Yeah.
He was really interesting because
Yeah.
he was kind of a big dope, but he was fun.
Yeah.
And then we get to, I'm gonna let you explain this because you explain this a lot
I'll
better
try.
than me. We get to his impending relationship with the lady at the Oasis.
Yeah.
What are your feelings on that situation?
Glad you asked. Okay, this also I picked up early on that this was going to be what I call a boy book, which means it's populated by mostly male characters, and any females who are in there are either devices or window dressing. And at the same time, I found it really curious that even though the boy has a name in the first sentence of the book, he is never referred to it through the rest of the book. So that was strange, but then he's the boy, the only boy. He's the only guy, the important one in this whole thing.
Oh boy.
And yes, and the woman that he meets in the quotation that I read, she is a woman of the desert who does little more than serve as one of his objects of interest. She is only partly realized as a character, and there are only just a couple other females in this book, and they're only partly realized as characters. It's not that I object so much when there's predominantly one gender of character throughout a book. That's not the problem. The problem is how the other one gets treated.
Exactly.
And some of this was just poor characterization. The women are not characterized well. Some of the male characters actually come across a little bit like just devices to move the parable along. And so I took issue with that.
And I guess, I don't know, maybe it's just because we're kind of stubborn women, but
There's that.
the whole fact of her total purpose in life is, well, I'm going to meet a man in the desert and he's going to leave me, but I'll sit here and I'll wait for him to come back. Even if he's gone 20 years, I will sit here and I will wait.
Because I am a woman of the
Because
desert.
I'm a woman of the desert, and that's what I do.
That's all he had to say, that's all the author had to say, and that was the end of story on her.
But what if he dies? You know this guy for like 2 months. And I'm going to sit here and wait for him forever. What if he just never comes back because he doesn't like you? I don't know. That bugged me.
And it bothered me too that we have to care. I like it when I can care about the protagonist and follow him along. Even if I don't like him, I have to care.
You have to have some kind of connection.
Yes, some sort of attachment. Either I want to see him succeed or I want to see him fail really bad. And I did not feel so moved very much by this nameless named boy.
I didn't really care.
So,
all right, let's give these our little ratings here.
Sure.
I gave it 2.5 stars. I liked it enough. Like, I liked the basic story. I liked some of the characters. I did not like a lot of other things. So I liked enough stuff to give it 2.5, and that's about where I am.
okay. Well, I didn't get as far with it as you. I was expecting better. Part of the problem might have been with the translation into English, and that the English didn't capture as much of the original as it could have, but even so, it's no excuse. I really was kind of let down by it, especially at the end, so I will say 1.5.
All right, so 2.5 for me.
1.5 for me.
And we'll be right back. Welcome back. Our final book today is called Going Bovine by Libba Bray.
All 16-year-old Cameron wants is to get through high school and life in general with minimum effort. But that's before he's given some bad news. He's sick with mad cow disease and he's going to die, which totally sucks. Under the instruction of a loopy punk rock angel, Cam must travel the country along with his friends Gonzo the hypochondriac and Balder the yard gnome to find the cure to his illness and, if there's time, save the universe.
Yeah, she grins. Insanity, brilliance, such a tough call. Look, Cameron, I'm just a messenger. I don't know everything, but I do know this. You're being given a chance. Take it and you might live. Stay here and you'll surely die. Dulcie cuddles Mr. Bubbles' kitty, fluffing him with her fingers. What do you say? You, Gonzo, connecting the dots, finding Dr. X, getting a cure, saving the universe? You down, cowboy? My head hurts. It's almost time for my pain meds. Where's Glory? I want to check out for a while, not think or feel. I roll onto my side away from her. I'll think about it. Okay, Dulcie reaches over and tucks the cat into the crook of my arm. But Cameron, don't think about it too long. All right. First off, Going Bovine won the Michael L. Prins Award last year, which is the young adult equivalent of more well-known awards like the Newbery and the Caldecott, which are children's awards. Basically, this is for last year, voted the best written young adult novel. So just want to put that out there first.
Yeah, that's nice.
So, Going Bovine is hysterical.
True.
It is saddening at times. It is maddening at times. Basically, Cameron gets randomly diagnosed with mad cow disease. He's gonna die. He's in the hospital. A crazy angel comes up to Cameron and says, "You got to go and save the world, and then you'll get better," which is, in itself, interesting.
Yes.
It's kind of a companion novel to Don Quixote. There's various similarities. They mention Don Quixote in the book, which is interesting because it is kind of a retelling. I wouldn't say it's a straight retelling of Don Quixote, but there's definitely elements of the classic within this book. Yeah, what do you want to say?
Yeah,
I know you want to say a lot.
Yeah, I do. It's really not, like you said, it's not straight up Don Quixote, but there is a strong connection because it's laid out in the book that there is a strong connection. Cam is reading Don Quixote, which may very well have influenced everything that happens later in the book. Now, that said, not giving any more away, we'll say this. The road trip that he takes is phenomenal.
It's kind of, what did I say earlier? I'm trying to get it right. It is a modern day surrealistic version of a humorous teenage road trip.
What she said.
Exactly.
That's perfect. So,
there's crazy things. There's lawn gnomes that are the spirits of Norse gods, and there's snow globe companies with their own SWAT machines, and a cult that just bowls and eats shakes all day looking for being happy. I don't know. It's just, there's so much insanity packed in this book.
Child geniuses, wormholes, and the physics like on the theoretical level, and just all kinds of, it gets
Disney World.
crazier as it goes. And Disney World.
And Disney World.
How could we not love the road trip? And I love the road trip, ... just not what came before the road trip or after.
There is speculation throughout this book without giving anything away, because that's the hardest part right now, is we can't talk about the end of this book.
Yeah.
We can't, because that'll give away everything. But there's speculation that comes out throughout this book where Cameron believes that he is hallucinating. Now, this is throughout the book. This is not just, at the end or in the middle. From the beginning of the book to the end of the book, there's a feeling of hallucination, uncertainty, and that is very prevalent throughout the whole story. That's about all I can say about that, because I can't give anything else away. However, because of that, that leads to your strong opinions about the book.
Right. And this could have been, speculative fiction all the way that could be speculative fiction. It is speculative fiction.
Yeah.
Okay, I won't mince hairs. It is speculative fiction.
It's the
so
best
anything
way.
can happen. That's fine. Anything can happen.
Yay.
Libba Bray, why did you do this to me? That's what I want to say to her. Why did you do this to me?
No. I think your exact words were, if Libba Bray does this to me, I'm going to go to her house and beat her with a fish.
No, I was going to mail her a dead fish. That's different. I wasn't going to, assault on authors, but
it's still a very strong
Yeah, there's a
feeling.
dead fish involved, so yeah, it wouldn't have been cool if I really went through with that.
But this is one of those books, it's a hot and cold book. I have read articles and, have heard from other librarians, they hate this book. And then there's people like me who love this book. And it's one of those books that you have to read for yourself.
It's true. Yeah, you really have to make up your own mind about it. And I think I understand why you love it, because you can forgive authors for certain things.
Some things.
And I can't. Not for certain things that I cannot go into here, because I'll ruin everything for readers. And really, I think a lot of people would enjoy this book incredibly, even though And the road trip part, I adored it. I did enjoy it. And that is the majority of the book.
That is
Really, that is the heart of it.
Book.
That's the heart of the book.
It's just the beginning and the end that get people a little
upset?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Upset. Okay,
Yeah.
I wasn't going to go that strong of a word, but
I'll
yes,
go.
upset.
I'm upset.
Let's rate this book. Why don't you go first, since we know how what you think about this book?
Yeah, I think my feelings are clear. I'm upset, so I give it a 2. Even though I will admit it's incredibly well written and the journey is amazing and fun, and yeah, 2.
I love this book. This is one of my favorite books.
I know.
I give it 3.5. I don't give it 4. I don't know. I don't like to always give 4. I'm always iffy about 4. So I'll give it 3.5, which is almost like a 4, but not quite. But it's something that you have to experience, and I love it more because of the fact that, because of this kind of reaction, where you are almost like ragingly angry at the end of this story.
Dead fish angry.
This is why I love this book, because it brings you there. It brings you to that level.
Yeah.
It is not just your average la la la. It's a story about a boy who's dying.
Yeah.
Because I'm so tired about stories about boys who are dying. Okay, I want to hear about it anymore. I don't. But here's about a boy who's dying. But it's so much fun that he's dying, and I love that he's dying.
It is fun. I know. Like, I
horrible
got
to
over
say.
that part, you know, like, oh, this poor kid. And then it's like, well, he's handling it pretty well. I guess I can go along with
all
this
right.
too.
He's
so.
got Gonzo. He's got Balder.
Yeah.
But yeah. So okay, let's do our recap for today.
Sure. On these 3 books that all have this thread of philosophizing through
Yeah,
them.
they're all very
Yeah.
philosophical in their own agenda type.
Fictionalized
Yeah,
way.
they all have an agenda.
Yes, they do.
Okay, let's start with Alice I Have Been by Melanie Benjamin. 2 stars all around.
Yeah.
Nice and easy, 2 stars.
Easy. We agree.
And for The Alchemist, Tracy gave it 1.5 stars, and I gave it 2.5 stars. And finally, Going Bovine, Tracy gave it 2 stars, and I gave it 3.5 stars. That's it for today. See you next time.